This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Again, a very important show. This is not just entertainment. We just don't report the news. We make the news. This week, I appeared in court in Washington, D.C., which is where I am today, on behalf of Sheriff Joe Arpaio. It's part of Freedom Watch's leftist media strike force, and you're going to hear from the sheriff in just a few minutes. I appeared against CNN, the Huffington Post, the Rolling Stone, who, using him, Sheriff Arpaio, as the whipping boy to get to the president on the president's immigration policies, branded him as a felon, not just on television, but in written print, trying to destroy him at the height of his campaign when he was seeking the U.S. Senate back in 2018 in a special election. And they did it afterwards because the sheriff is seriously considering running for Senate again in 2020. Now, Sheriff Arpaio is a fine man. I've known him for many years. He's never had a racist comment I've ever heard. He doesn't have a racist bone in his body. But he does believe in the law. He's a former high official of the Drug Enforcement Administration. He was elected sheriff of Maricopa County 6 times. He's widely respected. And he's somebody who has the president's ear. The president supports him. He supports President Trump. And that's why they tried to destroy him. So on his behalf, and of course I represented him in the amnesty issue when Obama wanted to let 5 million illegal aliens get citizenship. We killed that legally years ago. But they wanted to destroy him because that's the way you can get to the president. So Chris Cuomo, the primetime host of CNN, Jeff Zucker, the CEO of CNN itself, the Huffington Post, Rolling Stone, all smeared him, calling him a felon. Of course, he wasn't a felon. If you're a felon, you lose the right to vote, and you lose a lot of other rights. He was found liable for a misdemeanor, like a traffic ticket. His deputies went out without his knowledge and did profiling in day worker sites, trying to look for illegal immigrants. That's what was alleged at worst. Anyway, the president pardoned him for that. By the way, if you're going to look for illegal immigrants, where are you going to find them? It's logical. So this was a hit job, and it's to try to get to the president. I was in front of Judge Royce Lamberth yesterday, really the most courageous judge on the U.S. District Court in Washington, D.C., and we had oral argument. Of course, CNN is trying to have the case dismissed, so is Rolling Stone and Huffington Post. And I don't believe that they're going to be successful. I don't want to speak for Judge Lamberth, but he'll give us a fair shake. He's the same judge who years ago made so many good rulings with regard to the Clinton scandals. Over 40 scandals were involved at that time, whether it was Chinagate or Filegate or Travelgate or whatever. And he's a very independent judge. He didn't always rule in my favor, but he's an honest man. And there are few and far between on the judiciary today. In fact, when I came into the courtroom yesterday, maybe you'll all get a little laugh about this. He said, Mr. Klayman, really glad to see you. Haven't seen you for a while. He said, of course, maybe not all the judges in the courthouse feel that way, because I've been tough on the other judges. All of the other judges in that courthouse are very politicized in varying degrees. And you have to take that into account. And when you see the politicization, that's a tough word to pronounce, coming out of these judges, how they make decisions, how they avoid making decisions, how they rule in favor of the president who appointed them. This is exactly one of the major reasons I founded Judicial Watch in 1994 and why I now run Freedom Watch. Because after I ran for the U.S. Senate in 2003 and 2004 and came out, I didn't win. It wasn't a good time to do it. And I'm better on the outside anyway. I started Freedom Watch. And Freedom Watch today does what Judicial Watch used to do when I ran it. Of course, I founded it. I conceived of it. When I left Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton seized control of the organization, and he changed the emphasis of it, the mission of it, to transparency in government. When I ran Judicial Watch, it was to investigate and prosecute government corruption and abuse. It was to be the People's Justice Department. It wasn't just to be a way to get documents out of the government. That's what Judicial Watch primarily does today, because Tom Fitton's not a lawyer, and he doesn't feel comfortable, I don't believe, bringing these hard-hitting cases. He's got young lawyers around him. They're not trial lawyers. I am a trial lawyer of 42 years. So we do today at Freedom Watch what I used to do at Judicial Watch. And we're irreplaceable because no one else will do it. And I'm the kind of guy that people go to take these hard cases, whether it's suing for defamation for Sheriff Arpaio, or whether it's also representing Chief Justice Roy Moore in a defamation case against Sacha Baron Cohen, who branded him falsely as a pedophile, or representing Clive Bundy and his sons, or Jerry Corsi, who we're going to have on the show later today to give us his input on the Mueller testimony this week and what's going on with him. I kept him from being indicted by Mueller, and that was, frankly, took a lot of work, and we had to push back, and we didn't roll over. So that's who Larry Klayman is, and that's why Judge Lamberth respects me, because he's the same kind of person on the bench. He's made decisions. He ruled against Gail Norton, the Republican Secretary of Interior under George W. Bush, who was participating in a cover-up of misuse of monies by Indian trust funds. He held her in criminal contempt. He's a Republican. And that's probably, he was Republican appointed by Reagan. And that's probably why he's not a Supreme Court justice, because he takes these strong stands. To be a judge these days, you in effect have to be a yes man for the people who appointed you. And that's true in other branches of government. It's true elsewhere in bar associations, elsewhere. This is what you're up against. So you need a Larry Klayman. You need his clients like Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who's fearless. You need Chief Justice Roy Moore, who's taken a beating down there in Alabama, but most likely will win the Senate election in 2020 nevertheless. You need a Jerry Corsi who wouldn't roll over to Robert Mueller and take a sweetheart plea deal, pleading guilty to one perjury count with no jail time. He said, I can't lie in front of my creator, and we fought Mueller, and we won. We fought the law, quote, unquote, and we won. And you need Bundys who will stand up to government tyranny that are trying to threaten your family with death unless you get off the land and relinquish your cattle to the Bureau of Land Management. This is what we're up against today. We need fierce freedom fighters. My clients are all fierce freedom fighters, actual clients, not just trying to get documents, but trying to bring about justice. We have citizens' grand juries. Jerry Corsi played a role in that just several weeks ago in having Robert Mueller indicted. We're going to be trying him in the fall. We're going to be bringing indictments against others, whether it's Rod Rosenstein, Andrew McCabe, the Lovebirds, Strzok and Page, whether it's Brennan and Clapper, Obama's intelligence czars, and, of course, Obama and the Clintons themselves. We don't have much time in this country. It's slipping away from us. Nearly every organization is controlled by the deep state. It's controlled by the left. They want to destroy everyone that gets in their way. You've got Muslims. You've got radical feminists. You've got radical atheists. You've got radical African Americans. You have radical people on the Jewish left. And, I'm a Jewish Christian, so it's not an anti-Semitic remark, but the Jewish left is very destructive, frankly, of this country. I'll be blunt. And they're destructive of Israel. They're destructive to Jews in general. And we have a coalition of the Jewish right to try to counteract that. And you've got people out there that are teaming together as a coalition to destroy the country and then try to build it back in their socialist, atheist, communist, pro-radical Islam, pro-radical people of faith, against people of faith, that image. That's what they want to do. They want to destroy this country. And what's going to happen if they succeed? They're going to start fighting with each other. Because, the Muslims don't get along with the feminists, and they don't get along with the radical gays, lesbians, and transgenders under Islam. They're persecuted. Women are persecuted under Islam. In fact, in some countries in the Middle East, if you're gay or you're lesbian or transgender, you're put to death. So that's where this country's headed, and we have to head this thing off peacefully and legally. And that's why I ask you to go to freedomwatchusa.org. Contribute to our cause. Tax-deductible contributions. Go to ClivenBundyDefenseFund.org. Contribute to his defense. He's now in front of the Ninth Circuit. Believe it or not, the Trump Justice Department took an appeal of the dismissal of the indictment because the Attorney General is not even in control of his own department. So don't be fooled that we're going to get justice there. Believe me. Forget about Hannity and the rest of them that are boosting ratings by claiming that great things are going to happen. You have to rely on yourselves. You can only rely on yourself and your family and the law. Wyatt Earp, watch the movie with Kevin Costner. This is what Wyatt had to do. He had to do it, take matters into his own hands legally. Did it legally. Because at that point, we didn't even have a Justice Department. And that's what Freedom Watch is doing today. We don't have a Justice Department. We don't have a Congress. We don't have a Republican establishment that will stand up other than getting on Fox News and raising money for themselves and getting reelected. We, the people, need to do it for ourselves. And go to Corsi Legal Defense Fund and contribute to Dr. Corsi. He's not totally out of the woods yet. They're still circling up there in Congress. They want to haul him in front of congressional committees like everybody else. So you have to stand for yourself. That's the message today. No one's going to be there to back you up. Maybe your family will be there, but you have to stand up for yourself, you, the American people, with Freedom Watch, with people like my clients, with yours truly. So please support us. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Read what we do. See our leftist media strike force. See our citizen grand jury. See our other lawsuits. And join our Justice League. You are the superheroes, as I've said many times. You are Batman. You are Superman. You are Wonder Woman. You are the Flash. You are Aquaman in real time, in the real world. I'll be right back with Sheriff Joe Arpaio to give you his thoughts on what went on just this week in Royce Lambert's court in Washington, D.C.
Dangerous.
Don't here use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special prosecutor.
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with my friend, my client, a real patriot, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, someone who was a high official for the Drug Enforcement Administration, elected sheriff of Maricopa County 6 times, ran for the U.S. Senate in 2018, is seriously considering running for the Senate again. He is a real American hero. He's America's toughest sheriff, but he's also America's most just sheriff because he believes in the law. And I gave an introduction, Sheriff, about our case and how we were in front of Justice Royce Lamberth yesterday. And I'd like you to give your observations on what went on and what you're trying to accomplish in this defamation lawsuit against CNN, Chris Cuomo, the head of CNN, Jeff Zucker, Rolling Stone, and, of course, the Huffington Post. And I might add one other thing. For Chris Cuomo to brand you a felon, this is a guy who went to undergraduate school at Yale. Probably his daddy, Mario, got him in there because he's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. But he also went to Fordham Law School. He's a lawyer. So he knew better that you weren't convicted of any felony, and so did the rest. So I want to get your take on our court appearance yesterday and, why you brought the lawsuit.
Well, first of all, I haven't had any sleep for 2.5 days, but that's okay. It was worth going to court. I want to thank you for your efforts during the hearing. I believe that Judge Lambert is a fair judge. Not going to say about the court that found me guilty of contempt of court, but that's another issue I don't want to get into, other than I'm not guilty of that. It was a hit piece from Obama and Holder and biased judges, but that's probably what brought us to this issue right now. But we're fighting that, Larry. I want to thank you. for your efforts, and we'll see what the courts and the judicial system comes up with. But I'm a little angry in a way. I take all these hits. Doesn't bother me, all the negative press and people coming after me. But this one, a little different. I mean, when you spend, Larry, you know that, 55 years in law enforcement around the world, and then joined the Army when the Korean War broke out. And here I am, almost 58 years later, sitting at a defense table on a so-called contempt of court and being found guilty of that. That's okay, but now here we go, where you have the news media, which goes after me every day when I go to the toilet. They write it up. But I think this one went a little too far, calling me a convicted felon. You can argue that forever, but it was out there. It's still out there. I believe I got caught 2 times in my life, parking tickets. Not saying I didn't.
Well, and in fact, Sheriff, you were pardoned by the president because he saw the unfairness of the proceeding. The judge who got the ball rolling on your misdemeanor contempt was Judge Murray Snow, who was heard, his wife was heard saying in a restaurant in the Phoenix area that he wanted to destroy you. And that's a fact.
Yeah, but there's a more important thing. What's a law firm? Covington, Burling?
Covington and Burling, that's a hack major Democrat firm of Eric Holder, firm of Lanny Brewer.
Well, you're talking about the Judge Snow's brother-in-law. He's a big shot in that law firm, and that's where Holder came from, and Obama started the investigation, alleged racial profiling.
Yeah, and it was the ACLU.
The judge is hearing it's his brother-in-law's law firm that they're supporting the ACLU to file the charges and went to court 22 days. That's before the same judge. And I can go on and on. I don't like to babble.
Yeah, but it's a fact, and that's why the president pardoned you. He saw the injustice of it, and besides, we're still challenging even the misdemeanor finding, because that's up in court now. It's at the Supreme Court, Ninth Circuit, and we're seeking to have that vacated. So to just say you're a felon is obviously defamatory. It hurts you. But I want to thank you, Sheriff, my good friend, for standing up for the American people. You're doing it not just for yourself and your family. You're doing it for the American people, because we can't let this rabid leftist media destroy us, because that's not a democracy. To defame someone is not a proper use of First Amendment rights. So anyway, thank you, Sheriff. We'll have you back again. I want you to get some rest, because you went back and forth. You're 87 years old. You're younger than I am at 68.
Thanks for your efforts, and never surrender for what you're doing.
Never. God bless you.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with another one of my clients, another brave patriot, another fearless freedom fighter, someone who stands up not just for himself, but for all of us, the American people. And these are who my clients are. We just had Sheriff Joe Arpaio on about his defamation case against CNN, Huffington Post, Rolling Stone. We talked about Chief Justice Roy Moore doing the same thing with regard to Sacha Baron Cohen, the Bundys, who Jerry's written about. Dr. Corsi is coming on in a second, and a lot of other clients. And these are the people who are going to change the whole dynamic of what's going on in this country. And we're doing it peacefully and legally. We're doing it in the courts. We're not going to the streets like Antifa or like some of these radical groups that want to take the country down by destroying it physically and harming us in the process. We're doing it in the courts. We're doing it in the court of public opinion. And we're doing it because we're trying to educate the American people. And Dr. Corsi, of course, has written 22 books, several New York Times bestsellers. He's never been shown to have said anything which is false. Even the birth certificate, and we can talk about that. It's clearly fraudulent, and it's not racist to raise this issue because there are others who weren't eligible to be president, many of whom are Anglo-Americans, so to speak, people of the Caucasian race. They're not eligible either. But that's what the left does. It just tries to destroy. Of course, the biggest threat that Dr. Corsi faced was Robert Mueller and his prosecutorial staff. And we did succeed because he stood up to them. I'm going to let him explain what he did. We fought the law, in quotes. Of course, it wasn't the law. And Dr. Corsi won. Jerry, welcome to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Larry, it's good to be back with you again. Thank you.
I want to get your observations on what you saw this week in Mueller's testimony, how it impacts not just you but others who have been under investigation, where you think this whole charade is going in terms of Congress and the rabid leftist Democrats on Capitol Hill, and what you foresee into the future with regard to where this country ends up. And, as of today, frankly, it's hanging by a thread. So give us your thoughts about all this.
Well, Larry, first of all, I think if we saw Robert Mueller the way he really is, he looked like a tottering old man who was on the edge of dementia. That's pretty shocking. Clearly, he was not in charge of the investigation that was going to potentially to impeach President Trump. He appeared incompetent. I'm a little distrustful of that. I think there's also an element of evasion in what Mueller did. I find it impossible, even if he was suffering from age memory problems, I find it impossible that he did not know what Fusion GPS was, the firm that hired Christopher Steele, who did the Steele dossier that's at the core of the entire Russian collusion hoax. I think that I've debated in my mind whether Mueller understands that justice is going to ultimately be served in this coup d'etat. I've written a new book. It'll be out later this year on the coup d'etat, and I think it's going to be revealed that Mueller was part of the cover-up, and I think he was laying out his defense in part, which is, don't prosecute me. I'm an old man. I can't remember, because there are critical elements that he was questioned on that really his inability to answer was either, shockingly showing his mental incompetence at an advanced age, or a continuing cover-up in which he was smart enough to know that some of those answers could land him into prison for, in fact, not doing an honest investigation or participating in what was a coup d'etat by attempting to continue the cover-up.
Well, that was my impression, too. And to me, it's shocking that they even put him in front of these committees, the House Judiciary Committee, the House Intel Committee. Well, what were these people thinking, and what was his staff thinking to let him do that? But thank God they did, because now the emperor has no clothes. And this is exactly what I've been saying all these different years, is that when someone says that you're a person of great integrity in Washington, D.C., or in this case Mueller, run for the exits, because he's obviously not a person of integrity. And if he was a person of integrity, he would know what his staff was doing. It's no defense to say, I don't know. Take it a step further. The people of Munich knew what was going on at Dachau, and they can't claim after World War II that they didn't know what was going on at Dachau. And while this doesn't rise to the level of a Holocaust, it does rise to the level of a huge, major crime, a continuing crime, a racketeering enterprise by these individuals, not just with regard to Mueller's office, but with regard to what's going on with Nadler, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Adam Schiff, chairman of the House Intel Committee, Schumer, Pelosi, the rest of them. So, Jerry, that's what my take is on it. I don't know if you agree with it or not, but
well, I do agree with it, Larry, and I think it also shows, the rabid nature of this hate Trump sentiment among the hard left, which is now taking the Democratic Party into being a democratic socialist party and a European model headed towards a communist party. The left is insane with the fact that Hillary Clinton did not get elected and they did not get to complete their 16-year Obama-Hillary Clinton conversion of the country, destruction of the Constitution, and conversion of us into this socialist kind of utopia that they dream of as a totalitarian state. They lost that chance for a while. And secondly, I think the whole Mueller episode shows that it does the courage of a very few people like Donald Trump, who has remained steadfast throughout this entire ordeal. Eventually, the Muellers crumble under their own lies, and it's becoming apparent, I think, to the American people that forces within the Justice Department, the intelligence agencies internationally, conspired to make sure that Donald Trump was never president, or if he got elected president, he would be impeached. And that's a coup d'etat. That's criminal. It's treason, high crime, the highest crime, a capital offense. And I think Mueller, could see the handwriting on the wall. I doubt if Mueller is this doting, or I don't think anyone would have let him go in front of the committee if he was truly as pathetic an old, broken man as he appeared to be in the hearing. And the Democrats putting all their cards on that they could have a great television performance with Mueller do not understand how far this cover-up has already unraveled, and that I'm not sure Barr and Durham will produce an honest investigation of the Justice Department. I still don't trust government agencies to investigate themselves. I think they, by nature, engage in cover-ups. But I think the truth is coming out anyway, and Donald Trump is already vindicated and will be more vindicated.
Well, the truth is one thing, okay, and I agree with you. I'm even more of an advocate that the government doesn't and cannot investigate itself. That's why I started Judicial Watch. That's why I now run Freedom Watch, why we are the People's Justice Department, why I represent people privately, such as I have you in various defamation cases as well. They've attempted to destroy you, too. But you have fought back, and you are, in fact, seeking justice. Tell our listeners about what you're doing in the courts to do that.
We've got a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Mueller and the entire investigation for a number of things, including prosecutorial misconduct, leaking to the press. This is a serious lawsuit, and I've also not tolerated being abused, my reputation tarnished. So we've also sued Roger Stone and others, Credico, who I think has become a surrogate spokesperson for Roger Stone. And,
you meant Caputo. We didn't sue Credico.
Caputo. I'm sorry, Caputo. I get the two confused.
Right, he's kaput.
Yeah, they're both kaput. But at any rate, my point is that I'm fighting back against what the left does, which is this politics of personal destruction, where they want to label you as a racist, that's the most common, or a xenophobe, or a something or other that's so hateful that you have to be outcast. Well, that's the first step to the kind of roundups we see in totalitarian states. It reminds me of Mao's Cultural Revolution, in which you are guilty until you're exonerated. There's a standard we do not have in this country for good reason. But, because of your thoughts that are projected onto you. I'm not a racist. I'm not a xenophobe. We've sponsored people to get citizenship legally in the United States. But the left does not want criticism of their ideological agenda. And Donald Trump stands in the way of that ideological agenda, trying to preserve the Constitution and to fight for America. These globalists don't want America anymore. They want a one-world government. And with the technology that we have today, and I experienced that firsthand with Mueller, I'm confident. I've been under electronic surveillance going back to 2004 when I co-authored with John O'Neill the Swiftboat book, Unfit for Command, against John Kerry. This deep state is going to come after anyone who's ideologically predisposed to want freedom, the Constitution, and to expose these agents of government which act unelected, with enormous powers, on their own agenda, self-determined. And it's not an agenda that's going to benefit people. It's going to benefit the bureaucrats in government power. They want to aggrandize power in their own control. And this should frighten every American.
What we've got here, I've said it many times, is a equivalent of the National Football League. The American Conference, the National Conference. The American Conference are the Democrats. The National Conference are the Republicans. The establishment here is making money hand over fist. Come to Washington, D.C., get out as quickly as you can, I might add. But just see what's going on, what's being built in Southwest, in Boston, elsewhere. It's exploding. Why do we need all these people here in Washington, D.C.? Money. Money talks and nobody walks. And the establishment circles the wagons and protects itself. And that's why you need a Dr. Corsi. That's why you need a Sheriff Arpaio. You need a Judge Roy Moore. You need the Bundys. You need Larry Klayman. You need people who are fearless, who will not put their own self-interest ahead of the interest of the country. Jerry, you're writing a new book, aren't you? Tell us about that.
Yes, it's going to be on the coup d'etat. It's going to expose the deep state traitors who tried to destroy President Trump. And it's also going to be about the plan to re-elect President Trump. It should be out at the end of the year. I've finished the book. It's in copy editing right now. And it should be up on Amazon very quickly. The title will be Coup d'etat. And the subtitle will be Exposing the Deep State Traitors and the Plan to Re-elect President Trump. And we'll have it in print as soon as we can get it into print. I'm very pleased with it. And from everything I heard discussed in the Mueller hearings, the two hearings in the House this week, I'm confident that I've really cracked through the secret cabal and their planning to engage in massive prosecutorial misconduct in order to frame people like George Papadopoulos, General Flynn. They tried to frame me. I refused to take their plea deal, and they did not prosecute me. They did not indict me. I think if Papadopoulos and others, including General Flynn, had fought back, they too could have broken the back of Mueller a lot earlier. I just would not lie. I would not swear before a judge to a crime I had not committed. I was not going to put my hand on a Bible when I knew I did not knowingly and willfully give Mueller information I knew to be false on a material subject with the intent to deceive him. They had to prove all that at trial.
And that's what separates you, Jerry. I'm interrupting because we only have about 20 seconds left in this segment. But you see, you put your life on the line. You could have done life imprisonment. And that's my message today. All Americans need to stand up right now, peacefully and legally, and be as courageous as Dr. Corsi is, and join us in what we're doing. I want to thank you for what you're doing, for your family, and everything, Jerry, because you are a true American patriot.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow patriots, this is the verdict. We saw what we're dealing with this week. We're in a war. It's a war between left and right. The left has lined up most of the judiciary. They've lined up most of the prosecutors at the Justice Department, the deep state. They've lined up people on Capitol Hill. They've lined up the leftist media. They've lined up bar associations to try to eliminate lawyers who they don't agree with, who are actually fighting them. This is the kind of thing that we need to take heed of, because we are in a war. Now, I advocate peaceful and legal means to solve it, and that's why we must succeed, because if we do not succeed, this country is going to explode. I don't want to see that happen. And we're going to be in total anarchy. We're going to be in civil war, and this country will go down. And once that happens, every faction in this country will be fighting armed-to-armed combat with each other. And that's why you need to join what I'm doing and others are doing, such as our clients, Sheriff Arpaio and Jerry Corsi at Freedom Watch. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for our Justice League. Support the Bundys who are standing against government tyranny. You know, it was Thomas Jefferson who said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny, but when the government fears the people, there's liberty. Support our clients out in Texas who are fighting against Louis Farrakhan, who killed police officers. Client up there in the Northern District of California, a brave gay lady named Kiara Robles, who brought a case against Antifa. I can go on and on. Go to our website, see what we're doing, freedomwatchusa.org. Again, Freedom Watch does today what I used to do when I ran Judicial Watch. We don't just get documents. Judicial Watch does a little bit more than documents, but not much more. Fitton's not a lawyer. That's why they focus on that. Fine, get the documents. But what do you do with the documents? You're going to hang them on your wall? No, we have to use them in real cases. We have to bring lawsuits. We have to bring citizens' grand juries. We have to fight in the trenches for the American people. And that's why I brought Sheriff Arpaio on today, and that's why I brought Dr. Jerry Corsi on today, because these people are on the front lines. They're not just getting documents. They're actually bringing cases to hold people accountable. And in the case of Mueller, not just a lawsuit that we brought for violation of constitutional rights against Dr. Corsi, trying to tamper with him, obstruct justice by threatening him with indictment and life imprisonment if he didn't lie against the president. But we're talking about filing a criminal complaint, which we did with the Office of Professional Responsibility at the Justice Department, Inspector General. Now, nothing's likely to happen with that. I did that to prove a point, because the Justice Department circles the wagons. They protect each other. Maybe one or two people get burned. Don't expect, as Sean Hannity says on Fox News, there's going to be justice. That's to boost ratings. That's to get advertising dollars. Fox overstates it. It's not believable anymore. Frankly, I've stopped watching Fox. I actually watch the Golf Channel. At least that's for real. The British Open. The guy who won that, Lowry, I mean, the only golfer with personality in the last 30 years. I mean, that was a real story. But to listen to Sean Hannity, that's no story. It's the same story every night. So I want you to support what we do. We have lawsuits concerning Ilham Omar, who just this week said al-Qaeda terrorists are not a threat, it's white men who are a threat. You know, for those people that think that that's racist, to take her on and to take Tlaib on, who says that the Holocaust gives her a calming feeling, or Ocasio-Cortez, or the others. You know, we can't be kowtowed with charges of racism. We're not racist. They're the ones that are racist. They hate white people. They hate Christians. They hate Jews. They hate themselves. And that's the story here, is that we, the American people, must rise up, just as we did in the days, months, and years leading up to 1776 on July 4th in my native city of Philadelphia. And just this week, policemen in Philadelphia are threatened with termination because they made certain comments under their First Amendment right on the Internet. This is what we're dealing with. This is Philadelphia, where freedom began. So please, go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League, contribute to Clive and Bundy Defense Fund.org, to CorsiLegalDefenseFund.com, and really stand up for yourself by standing up for us and supporting us. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. And I want you to listen carefully. I want you to share this show. We need to get the word out, because that's what happened in the days leading up to 1776. And we need to do it again. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.